Alright, chat. Let's learn about why you're all so fucking lonely. This video is simply titled Loneliness. Released February 17th, 2019, and again, this is another Kurzgesagt video.
Everybody feels lonely from time to time. When we have no one to sit next to at lunch, when we move to a new city, or when nobody has time for us at the weekend. But over the last few decades, this occasional feeling has become chronic for millions. In the UK...
That's what, part of what makes me feel better about my situation, like, I don't get to go out and see other people that often. Part of what really comforts me is the fact that I know that so many other people are in similar, if not worse, situations than I. And that's not in a, haha, like these suckers have it worse, but it's not like vindictive, it's more as like, well, we are in this together. And like even pre-pandemic, I was a very lonely person, but like just knowing that there were others like me helps a lot. It's strangely comforting. Exactly.
60% of 18 to 34-year-olds say they often feel lonely. In the US, 46% of the entire population feel lonely regularly.
And like this is, I feel like just the act of living alone is such a ubiquitous thing, and it's so sad. And don't get me wrong, I fucking hate living with my family. I imagine a lot of you do too. But just like going home to nothing is like really sad on its own. It's really like a crippling in a way. And this is someone speaking from the same position. Scared I'm gonna feel very lonely whenever I'm living alone. I'm not gonna, it is tough, it is. And like I feel like even just roommates, even if they get on your nerves a lot, can like alleviate this problem a lot. Really the solution is to find like friends or like family who you really love and for the most part can cooperate with. It doesn't need to be perfect. And just like having that human connection every day is so important. I feel like we were not meant to live alone, in my opinion. I had to move during COVID, oh my goodness, and it made it really hard to do anything social at all. Yeah, that's like a double whammy. Ways does society deal with like such an issue of a lack of physical content? We don't hug enough, and I mean that sincerely. Yes. That's a very Western thing too. Like in the East, I'm Middle Eastern, like you stay with your family for a long time. You always live with extended relatives and stuff. And unfortunately, a consequence of that is because the family is so valued, that often means that individuals can feel quashed, especially individuals who are, say, for example, gay. But even just like, not even just like in terms of social issues, it's just like having to prioritize the people you live with, especially when families are often hierarchical in terms of like who commands the most respect and authority, can lead to people feeling really suppressed in their homes. And maybe a better alternative to that is moving out. But then the issue is with moving out, often they're isolated from their home communities. It can end up feeling really isolating as a result as well. So that's why we're all suckers for found family nowadays. Really the solution is to find like friends, spouses, maybe like relatives you connect with better, and connect with them. And in some cases, you may not even need to divorce yourself from your family entirely. It could just be a matter of creating some distance. But it is interesting how sometimes it feels like loneliness is a trade-off for suppression. At least to me, for somebody who grew up in an environment where I wasn't like, where I felt like suppressed at home. And I imagine for a lot of you too may have felt the same way.
We are living in the most connected time in human history, and yet an unprecedented number of us feel isolated. Being lonely and being alone are not the same thing. You can be filled with bliss by yourself and hate every second surrounded by friends. Loneliness is a purely subjective, individual experience. If you feel lonely, you are lonely. A common stereotype is that
it's a feeling, yeah. It's not like, we knew this, but it's not like a shyness, or though shyness can contribute to a feeling of loneliness or introversion. It's a feeling, so you can have a million friends and still feel lonely. Culture can have such a big impact. In my country, for example, a lot of people tend to stick with the friends they've known all the way back since elementary school. Oh my god, I imagine that feels extremely suffocating. My family understands distance is necessary and vital for our cohesion, but we do have a family dinner every day just to be a family, and that's lovely. You're very fortunate to have such a lovely family. I feel like for a lot of people that isn't the case, and like hopefully hopefully it becomes the case for more people. I honestly am not sure how normative like a happy family where everyone is satisfied is compared to a dysfunctional family, because I suppose for a dysfunctional family it only takes a couple of bad apples for everybody to feel dissatisfied, but for a happy family everybody kind of needs to be at some level of cooperation. So it's a matter of entropy.
The loneliness epidemic we see today really only started in the late Renaissance. Western culture began to focus on the individual.
That's later than I thought. Or earlier than I thought, I should say. Earlier than I thought.
Intellectuals moved away from the collectivism of the Middle Ages, while the young Protestant theology stressed individual responsibility. This trend accelerated during the Industrial Revolution.
Renaissance.
People left their villages and fields to enter factories. Communities that had existed for hundreds of years began to dissolve, while
For
cities grew.
industrialization.
As our world rapidly became modern,
What's that
this
meme about the
trend sped
Industrial
up
Revolution?
more and more. Today, we move vast distances for new jobs, love and education, and leave our social net behind. We meet fewer people in person,
Industrialization,
and
Pug's
we meet
line.
them less often than in the past. In the US, the mean number of close friends dropped from 3 in 1985 to 2 in 2011.
Oh, that's depressing.
Most
3 is
people
already so
stumbled
small.
into chronic loneliness by accident. You reach adulthood and become busy with work, university, romance, kids, and Netflix. There's just not enough time.
This is so depressing. This model of life is so depressing. Like, I want a huge net of friends that I don't get isolated from when they have children, you know?
The most convenient and easy thing to sacrifice is time with friends. Did
True.
you wake up one
With
day
romance,
and
you have one
realize
really close
that
friend.
you feel isolated? That you
But also, it's such a burden on your partner and yourself to be responsible for all the emotional needs of one other person, you know what I mean? Which is why close friendships are so much more important as well.
yearn for close relationships. But it's hard to find close connections as adults, and so loneliness can become chronic. While humans feel pretty great about things like iPhones and spaceships, our bodies and minds are fundamentally the same they were 50,000 years ago.
Cool shell!
We are still biologically fine-tuned to being with each other. Large-scale studies have shown that the stress that comes from chronic loneliness is among the most unhealthy things we can experience as humans.
Oh my god, Chad! It's unhealthy! Me who wants to live forever, you're telling me this shit is unhealthy? I gotta get on fucking Bumble BFF right now, dude. Hold on. Live on stream. I still have the Happy Science Chicago branch page open. It is pretty difficult to find close relationships as adults. I agree with that pretty equivocally. I would argue it's borderline unhealthy, speaking from my own personal experience though. Oh, absolutely. No, I 100% agree. Putting all of your emotional needs on one person is a very easy way to lead to resentment on both parties, especially when it's a two-way street. You know? And of course your spouse should be the primary source of unconditional love and emotional support in your life. Of course. But it helps a lot if that, no, I don't want to say burden, it's not a burden, but if that responsibility is shared by multiple people. They say it takes 10 years of your life expectancy.
It makes you age quicker. It makes cancer deadlier.
What?
Alzheimer's advance faster.
What? The
Your
Alzheimer's
immune
one makes
system's
sense.
weaker.
That intuitively makes sense.
Loneliness is twice as deadly as obesity and
Twice?
as deadly as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day.
What?
The most dangerous...
My ciggies? Chat. Crunches on my ciggy. Worse than Vape Nation. Keep forgetting you guys have such late din-dins. That's Southern Europe for you. My Southern European brothers, I feel you. We have dinner at like 8 p.m.
dangerous thing about it is that once it becomes chronic, it can become self-sustaining. Physical and social pain use common mechanisms in your brain. Both feel like a threat, and so social pain leads to immediate and defensive behavior when it's inflicted on you.
I put walls around my heart.
When loneliness becomes chronic, your brain goes into self-preservation mode. it starts to see danger and hostility everywhere. But that's not all. Some studies found that when you're lonely, your brain is much more receptive and alert to social signals, while at the same time, it gets worse at interpreting them correctly.
Oh,
You pay more
so
attention to others,
sad.
but you understand them less. The part of your brain that recognizes faces gets out of tune and becomes more likely to categorize neutral faces as hostile, which makes it distrustful of others. Loneliness
I
makes
went
you
through that
assume
too,
the worst
yeah.
about others' intentions towards you.
I still go through that,
Because
arguably.
of this perceived hostile world, you can become more self-centered to protect yourself, which can make you appear more cold, unfriendly, and socially awkward than you really are.
Well, we do.
If loneliness has become a strong presence in your life, the first thing you can do is to try to recognize the vicious cycle you may be trapped in. It usually goes something like this. An initial feeling of isolation leads to feelings of tension and sadness, which makes you focus your attention selectively on negative interactions with others. This makes your
Selection
thoughts about
bias.
yourself and others more negative,
Cognitive
which
bias.
then changes your behavior. You
It's
begin
a
to avoid social
self-sustaining
interaction,
theory.
which leads to more feelings of isolation. This cycle becomes more severe and harder to escape each time. Loneliness makes you sit far away from others in class.
That's why the number one thing that helped me improve myself was not like when it comes to improving at something, most people look at it from an experience-based point of view. Like if I do this thing over and over and over again, I'm going to get better at it. But in terms of social anxiety and loneliness, the issue with that is if you're already stuck in this sort of loop, it causes every negative interaction to actually dig you in deeper. So the number one priority that's actually needed to address is your own mindset. Because if you begin thinking of yourself as a very fun and lovely person that people enjoy having around, it's going to help you a lot more. And I'm not saying you have to shunt yourself off in your room and enforce a positive mindset before you're ready to go out and interact with the world, because that's self-destructive too. Because if you put it just on this arbitrary goal, you're never going to allow yourself to reach it either. It's really a mix of the two. It just goes to show how we place so much, how it's kind of counterintuitive, where we place so much weight on experiential learning for so many other things, but for social graces, it's a bit more nuanced. So that's interesting. Mindset's the number one thing. The world is quite literally how you see it. Not to sound like a burgeoning cult leader, but the self-improvement to Satanism pipeline. Oh, I can't do Satanism like that. Satanists are actually quite cool. I went through this. I basically trusted no one, and yeah, I still go through I still notice that I go through it sometimes. Me too, bud, me too. You're not alone. I went through this, but they say I've improved a lot. I like to remain optimistic because the world is filled with such misery already. Very true. But you know what? I also think and I applaud you for all the improvement you've done, but I also think it's a bit self-destructive to think about your optimism in contrast to misery in the world. You know what I mean? Because that's already a negative way to frame it. But that's just me. If it works for you, it works for you. And I don't mean to denigrate that in any way. That particular part reminded me of an Am I the Asshole post. I can't talk right now, sorry. Pick it up, Aya. Team Cherry's calling. Fuck. Someone thought that an owner was giving that person and her coworkers free pizza was a power play and not just a mere friendly act to make them return more. Yeah, exactly. Stuff like that. Unfortunately, I feel like I was having this thought to myself this morning. It's unfortunately, I often see things a lot as a power play too. I especially sometimes see this in terms of female friendships. And I don't think it's necessarily internalized misogyny, though I suppose if it's only connected to women, it likely is some form of internalized misogyny. But it's just because my friendships with other girls as a kid, I often was taken advantage of in some way, it immediately puts up this protective barrier for me, where often I can see I easily read things as manipulation or hostile in some other avenue. It's to be the deepest stream I've ever participated in. Don't worry, we text. Come Monday or tomorrow or whenever the fuck I stream again, we'll be malding again, I promise. See, WeText has not been around long enough to experience our 3-hour runtimes of just Nintendo Wii Shop music. No, I like this. Well, too bad. You only get it once a week. Stream tomorrow, copium. It's hard to see positive things than negative. Yeah, absolutely. Which is why I think another big part of it is you have to... Never mind. I can't speak words anymore. I'm just gonna start playing the video again. Absolutely. Media plays such a big role in our negative bias towards the world. 100% agree with you there. You should see the stream when she plays Phasmo. I'm not gonna play Phasmo. I'm not playing Phasmo.
Not answer the phone when friends call, decline invitations until the invitations stop. Each and every one of us has a story about ourselves, and if your story becomes that people exclude you, others pick up on that. And so the outside world can become the way you feel about it. This is often a slow creeping process that takes years and can end in depression and a mental state that prevents connections even if you yearn for them. The first thing you can do to escape it is to accept that loneliness is a totally normal feeling and
exactly what we were discussing earlier in stream. It's really comforting to know. This is unfortunately pretty ubiquitous nowadays because in our weird socially hardwired ape brains, at least we're not in it alone. I would love to enjoy horror games, but I have an extremely active imagination. My 6 head is just too large, and I end up like thinking about them forever. And because it imprints on my brain so hard, it makes the latent scary effect last with me for like weeks. Which is why I avoid horror games and movies. Thank you, Hugo.
nothing to be ashamed of.
That's fair.
Literally everybody feels lonely at some point in their life. It's a universal human experience. You can't eliminate or ignore a feeling until it goes away
Sekiro is scary.
but you can accept that you feel it and get rid of its cause. You can self-examine what you focus your attention on and check if you are selectively concentrating on negative things. Was this interaction with a colleague really negative? Or was it really neutral or even positive? What was the actual content of an interaction? What did the other person say? And did they say something bad, or did you add extra meaning to their words?
And twist it.
Maybe another person was not really reacting negatively, but just short on time. Then there are your thoughts about the world. Are you assuming the worst about others' intentions? Do you enter a social situation and have already decided how it will go? Do you assume others don't want you around?
Chat.
Are you trying to avoid being hurt and not risking opening up?
Do these
if so,
things
can you
apply
try to give others the benefit of the doubt? Can you just assume that they're not against you? Can you risk being open and vulnerable again? And lastly, your behavior. Are you avoiding opportunities to be around others? Are you looking for excuses to decline invitations? Or are you pushing others away preemptively to protect yourself? Are you acting as if you're getting attacked? Are you really looking for new connections, or have you become complacent with your situation? Of course, every person and situation is unique and different, and just introspection alone might not be enough.
Won't solve everything.
If you feel unable to solve your situation by yourself, please try to reach out and get professional help.
Chat, you need
It's not a sign of weakness, but of courage. However we look at loneliness, as a purely individual problem that needs solving to create more personal happiness, or as a public health crisis, it is something that deserves more attention. Humans have built a world that's nothing short of amazing, and yet none of the shiny things we've made is able to satisfy or substitute our fundamental biological need for connection. Most animals get what they need from their physical surroundings. We get what we need from each other. And we need to build our artificial human world based on that.
Yeah.
Let's try something together. Let's reach out to someone today. Regardless if you feel a little bit lonely or if you want to make someone else's day better. Maybe write a friend you haven't spoken to in a while. Call a family member who's become estranged. Invite a work buddy for a coffee. Or just go to something you're usually too afraid to go to or too lazy to go to, like a D&D event or a sports club. Everybody's different, so you know what's a good fit
Speaking of,
for
I've been
you.
meaning to look into Chicago
Maybe
intramural sports.
nothing will come of it, and that's okay. Don't do this with any expectations.
Alice, thank you for the
The goal is
I
just
didn't
to
even see you
open
come
up a
in.
bit,
Oh my
to
god.
exercise your
Hi, how you
connection
doing?
muscles so they can grow stronger over time,
28 with
or
the
to help
prime.
others exercise them. We want to recommend
Thank you
two of
so
the books
much.
we read while researching this video.
Oh wait, I'm actually curious to see what
Emotional
they're
First Aid by Guy Winch,
Chat.
a book that addresses, among other topics, how to deal with loneliness in a way that we found helpful and actionable. And Loneliness, Human Nature and the Need for Social Connection by John Cacioppo and William Patrick.
I think I have Loneliness on my bookshelf. I didn't get it from this video. I think somebody recommended it to me. Because they know I'm fucking sad and lonely. I do have it! Chat! Well, maybe I gotta give it a read. What is it right here? Literally on my bookshelf. You can tell because it's paperback and the spine is still perfectly intact that I have not even opened it. Like, I haven't even, like, flipped open to the first page. What if being lonely were a bigger problem than we ever suspected? In this pioneering book, cognitive and social neurologist John T. Cacioppo draws from his research on brain imaging, analysis of blood pressure, immune response, etc., etc., etc. So this book seems to have been their source on the physical debilitations that come with loneliness, and gene expression to show just how intertwined and interdependent, physiologically as well as psychologically, we are as human beings. Loneliness reminds us as individuals and as a society that we have everything to gain and everything to lose, and how well or how poorly we manage our need for human connection. Guess I'll have to give it a read then. Give me that book, I need it right now. I'll toss it over.
As to why we experience loneliness on a
I think
biological
we're about
level,
done here.
how it's
this
spread in
video.
society, and what science has to say about how to escape it.
Spine unknown.
Links for both books in the video description.
Cool. Thanks, Kurzgesagt. If you feel lonely, you're lonely. Damn, this line hits like thunder. Alright, that's it. Well, that's not it. I'm gonna talk to chat for a while before we end. But that's it on React Ronda. We're donezo. Now it's just you and me, chat. I'm on the screen. You were already on the screen, you stupid fucking idiot. What the fuck did babbling? German serial killer lured online Coomers. Sarah, 19, has been standing trial at the Bamberg District Court since Friday. Prosecutor is convinced the teenager lured admirers into a trap with the promise of quick sex and then stabbed them in a cold... Holy shit. This looks like something out of a badly written... Oh, why is my webcam so big? Sorry. This looks like something out of a badly written, like teen novel, like the Riverdale or Euphoria-esque. The pentagram on her palm is a nice touch. Sad. Next book she will take on the government.